Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brian Martinez from the DIS Sales Department, and I want to thank you all for joining us today on this brand new, very exciting webinar. DIS has always prided itself on bringing our agents new and innovative ways to build their insurance practice. Just over a month ago, we added what we think will be a key element on our platform of products, long-term care insurance. In order to successfully implement this very important product, we knew we needed to bring in someone with a great deal of knowledge, experience, and expertise. We delivered. Vincent Benitez is our managing partner of the San Francisco branch. He comes to DIS with a broad and deep range of experience in both long-term care and disability insurance. Most recently, Vincent served for a number of years as the national sales leader for Group LTCI with Genworth. And prior to that, served as a regional vice president, Group LTCI for Aetna and MetLife. His background also includes practicing as an independent LTCI producer, specializing in the individual and small to medium-sized employer group market. And without further ado, Vincent Benitez. Vincent, take it away.
Thank you, Brian. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of today's webinar is to succinctly outline what is long-term care insurance, and the reasons and benefits people purchase long-term care insurance. In turn, we know a properly designed and placed long-term care policy will not only benefit the client and his family, but you, the producer, as well. Ultimately, you will take great pride in knowing that you have helped an insured and his family deal effectively with the ravages associated with long-term care needs in this country. With that being said, let's begin the presentation. What I'll be covering today is defining long-term care, the aging process, the disease and accident probabilities, the progression of disability of chronic conditions, the progression of disability for chronic conditions. The normal progression starts with help with bathing and ends with the help with eating. The four models of disability: the social model, the physical model, the mental model, and the medical model. What is long-term care insurance? How does a covered person qualify for benefits? What does it pay for? Cost of care. We will quickly cover the average national estimate cost of care today for home care providers, adult daycare health care facilities, assisted living facilities, and nursing homes. How can we pay for long-term care insurance? This is the question that's asked all the time. Do we rely on family and friends? Do we rely on government programs? Or do we pay all of these expenses out of pocket? Last but not least, the reasons why people buy long-term care insurance. There are 5 critical reasons, and we will review them on slide 9. Defining long-term care insurance. This is a question we get asked all the time, and I've been able to, again, succinctly outline it here. And I think most of you can see the screen there, but very quickly, generally long-term care refers to a wide range of personal care and other related services. And the key is personal care and other related services provided on an extended basis. And that's usually more than 90 days to people who need help with certain activities of daily living, which we call ADLs, or who need supervision to severe cognitive impairment such as Alzheimer's disease, or by simply growing old and becoming frail. There are really 3 causes for long-term care needs in this country. The first one is aging, the frailty. It's inevitable. The longer we live, it's not if, but when and how long. The second is disease, and that's a statistical probability, and accident is a statistical probability as well. To give you an idea of the onset of claims, and this is some facts that I've gotten from one of the leading carriers, the leading carrier in long-term care insurance in the United States. They show a percentage of claims by age group. At age 70, 10% of the open claims are people age 70. At age 75, it's 18%. At age 80, it's 27%. At age 85, it's 25%. And at age 90, it drops to 10%. The next slide I'd like to show you is the progression of disability for chronic conditions. And what we refer to here is the continuum of care. Chronic disease is the dominant health problem of the elderly. Functional disability can result from either a loss of physical, the ADLs, or the mental capabilities traditionally associated with the natural progression of aging, or simply getting old or growing old. Cognitive impairment. This is confusion or disorientation, memory loss, and or the inability to reason, often caused by Alzheimer's disease or similar forms of senility or irreversible dementia. This progression starts with bathing, and it goes from bathing to eating. Bathing is defined as the ability to wash yourself either in the tub, shower, or with a sponge. We find that the frequency of care is a scheduled activity. Someone has to be there when the person bathes, whether it's in the morning or in the evening or twice a day. It's usually provided on a custodial or personal care basis, and the costs associated to that are relatively low. So for example, in the United States, the hourly cost, the medium hourly cost for homemaker services are about $18 an hour, $18 to $19 an hour. And the provider, if it's provided by a professional person, it can be on a standby assistance, but usually this is provided by family and friends. The next progression is dressing. We're all familiar with what dressing is. This occurs every other day. Usually the services are every other day, Monday, Wednesday through Friday, 2 to 4 hours per day. It's provided by custodial or personal care, and it runs about $20 an hour for a professional. And it's provided by either a homemaker or personal care. The next progression in the activities of daily living is toileting. Toileting is the activity of using a toilet to relieve bowels or bladder with or without assistance. This is a demand activity, and it usually requires either custodial or personal care. The cost associated to it is moderate, and it's usually on a hands-on provider level. Continence is the next activity, and continence is the ability to control one's urination or bowel movement. This is an everyday occurrence. It's 4 to 6 hours per day. It's intermediate care, and the average cost is about $25 an hour, and this can be usually provided by a home health agency. The fifth activities of daily living that we see in this continuum is transferring. Transferring means the activity of getting into and out of bed or a chair. This is an 8-hour per day activity. It's usually done on an intermediate level, and the costs are on the higher end, and it's usually provided by a home health agency. Last but not least is eating. It's interesting, when we start life eating, and when we end life, we end up with eating as the activities of daily living. This requires 24 hours per day, skilled care. It can run as little as $35 an hour, and it's provided by RN, LPN, or LVN. The 4 models of disabilities, what we call social disabilities, are, as you can see there, the social models, the LADLs. Very quickly, I'll go through this. Instrumental activities of daily living. Most of you can read it quicker than I can outline it, but it starts with shopping for personal items and ending with doing heavy, light housework. That's what we call the LADLS. The physical models, the ADLs, which I just covered, these are the activities of daily living. And again, they're listed in order as one loses them, as I just briefly outlined: bathing, dressing, toileting, continence, transferring, and eating. The mental model, the cognitive impairment, we call them senior moments, senility, dementia, Alzheimer's. The medical model, it can be either an injury or a sickness. It can be acute, short-term, restorative, covered by Medicare, medical supplement, primary insurance. What is long-term care insurance? This is the question we get asked all the time. And there's really a very, very short and succinct answer to that. Long-term care insurance is designed to help pay the expenses of covered long-term care when someone can no longer care for themselves and must rely on others to provide assistance. Long-term care insurance can help pay for home health care, assisted living facility care, nursing home care, other long-term care related needs. Long-term care insurance may be the most practical and affordable method of covering the cost of long-term care. And I will go into a little more detail on that as we move along in the presentation. One of the items that is of real concern, of course, is the cost of long-term care. And as we all know, it's not inexpensive, and it's growing consistently with time. In this illustration here, I'm showing the cost of care today and the cost of care in 45 years, assuming a 45-year-old today who has a need for long-term care at age 75, and assuming a 4% annual increase or inflation protection, inflation adjustment. The blue bar is the assisted living. Assisted living today is running around a little over $51,000 a year. Home care runs about $60,000 a year today, and nursing home runs today at about $144,000. And again, this is on a national basis in the medium. Projecting that out 30 years, assuming a 4% inflation factor, you'll see that assisted living will climb to almost $221,000. Assisted home care, excuse me, that was assisted living. Home care would be at $250,000, and the real whopper is nursing home at $623,000. To give you an idea of the onset of claims, home, again, referring to the major carrier that I have worked with in the past, very interesting is this: the home care is the first benefit received. Approximately 71% of the claims for this carrier are home care claims. And very interesting, the last benefit, when the claim stops, either because of death or recovery, or they run out of benefits, it still represents 63%. The good news here is that people prefer to stay at home. But as you can see, over a 30-year span, that cost can climb substantially. Assisted living starts at about 13% and ends up at 19%. And nursing facility starts at 16% and ends at 18%. How can we pay for long-term care insurance? There are 4 ways we can pay for that. We can rely on family and friends to provide the services, the care, and the funds, and I will outline some of the costs associated with that on slide 10. We can rely on government programs, and I think all of you know what direction that is taking today. We can rely on Medicare. We can rely on Medicaid. Medicare is skilled nursing home care only after a 3-day hospital stay. It's very restrictive, and it's only for 100 days. Medicaid, in essence of Medicaid, is you have to impoverish yourself or be impoverished in order to qualify for Medicaid. Out of pocket, You can use your own funds from savings, retirement funds, or income. And if we look back at the prior slide, we can see what those costs are today. You may remember assisted living was at $51,000, home care at $60,000, nursing home at $144,000. Just today, how many of us can afford to have that kind of a hit to our retirement planning, let alone what it's going to be in 25 to 30 years? And of course, the fourth, and we think the most effective way of doing this, is long-term care insurance. It's specifically designed to pay for long-term care, and it's medical and disability insurance do not cover long-term care. Long-term care insurance, again, specifically designed to cover the expenses associated with long-term care in this country. Now, we talked about the reasons why people buy long-term care insurance. It helps protect the retirement savings. In disability insurance, what do? We insure the paycheck. Long-term care insurance insures the results of those paychecks, and that is the building of retirement assets and other assets that have been put aside. It will also do is help protect the family and friends from the burden of caregiving. And I mentioned earlier, I used the word ravages, the ravages of long-term care. And I say this all the time, anyone age 40 or older more than likely has experienced the event either through a friend, a family member, a neighbor, or an associate at work. So long-term care, not just does it protect the retirement savings and other assets, but it protects the family. A very important feature, it helps us maintain control and choice of where we as individuals will receive that care. All through life, we take some pride in that we can control our destiny. Let's not give it away just because we've aged. Long-term care, a properly designed long-term care policy will help us maintain that control. Second to the bottom there is we're protecting individuals from having to leave their home. Some of the statistics that I shared with you just recently about home care, we know that the majority of open claims are home health care claims. People prefer to stay at home. Talking about a facility, a nursing home facility, is a real turnoff to more individuals. We need to talk to our potential clients, but the fact is that long-term care is going to help them stay at home and receive care at home. Last but not least is preserve their independence. How many people do we all know in their 50s and 60s who pride themselves is that they've been able to get through the struggles of life, build up a little nest egg, possibly own their home outright or have it mostly paid for, independent. They want to preserve that independence. Nobody wants to give up that independence. So again, the reasons why people buy long-term care insurance: protect retirement savings, protect family, maintain control, protect themselves from having to leave their home, and preserve their independence. Some statistics that you'll find interesting. 70% of Americans who reach age 65 will have a need for long-term care at some point in their lives. A little earlier, I described the incidence of when those long-term care events occurred. As you may recall, I started at age 70 and went through age 90. Families bear a huge part of the financial burden for long-term care, as I mentioned earlier. They currently provide about $450 billion in unpaid caregiving services and $63 billion in out-of-pocket expenses. That's a substantial burden to the family. This is what I was referring to as the ravages of long-term care. That's just the financial. What we haven't gotten to is the physical and emotional cost to the caregivers. A startling fact that most of you may know, 10,000 baby boomers will turn 65 every single day over the next 2 decades. decades. So you can imagine the impact that's going to have on society and the families. 10 leading insurers pay $10.8 million daily. I don't know how many times I've heard through the media, long-term care companies don't pay claims. That's nonsense. They do pay claims. And we're seeing more and more of a day, and it'll continue to grow. As those baby boomers start having need for long-term care, these numbers are going to double and triple and quadruple. The average issue age for individual insureds today is age 63. About 10 years ago, it was 74, 75. In group insurance, interesting enough, in group insurance or multi-life employer-sponsored, it can get as low as age 45 or 47. I'd like to refer you to our website for additional information. The website is shown on the screen there. You can go to the website to request a quote, secure sales ideas, check policy status, and for any of your LTC needs, or you can give us a call, and the number is there. Brian, thank you very much, and I'd like to turn this over back to you.
All right, great. Thank you, Vincent. Wow, what a great webinar. Hope everyone learned a great deal. I wanted to mention that I am Vincent's assistant in the sales department. If you need a quote or an application or have any questions, feel free to reach out to me if Vincent is not available. And just to reiterate what Vincent just said, I encourage everyone to look at our website. We have a lot of great information regarding LTCI, and believe me, we'll be adding more information as the months go by. Please feel free to request quotes online as well.